Good evening. I would like to call the City Council regular session, February 25th, 2025, to order. The live stream of this meeting, if you're not able to come to the chambers, can be viewed at the city's YouTube channel. It can also be viewed at Longmont Public Media .org/watch or on Comcast channels 8 or 880. May we have a roll call, please?
Absolutely. Mayor Peck?
Here.
Councilmember Christ? Present. Mayor Pro Tem Hidalgo-Ferring?
Here.
Councilmember McCoy? Councilmember Popkin?
Here.
Councilmember Rodriguez?
Here.
Councilmember Yarbrough?
Here.
Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Let's stand for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
As a reminder to the public, in accordance with the Council's rules of procedure, the rules for providing public comment are as follows. Only Longmont residents and employees of the City of Longmont may speak during the first call public invited to be heard. You must provide your name and address on the sign-up sheet before the meeting, or I will not call your name. Each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. Anyone may speak on second reading or public hearing item, but you are asked to add your name to the speaker list for that specific item before the meeting. And anyone may speak during final call public invited to be heard. Members of the audience shall refrain from disruptive, vulgar, or abusive language, applause, heckling, or other actions that interfere with the orderly function of the council. May I have a motion to move the February 11th, 2025 minutes?
Second.
It's been moved by Councilor McCoy, seconded by Councilor Christ. Are there any questions or discussion on those minutes? Seeing none, let's vote. Who are you waiting for?
I'm having system login issues, so I vote in favor.
Okay.
Thank you. Recording.
That passes unanimously. Thank you. Do we have any agenda revisions, Dawn?
We don't have any revisions, Mayor.
Thank you. Are there any motions from council to add agenda items to future agendas? Councilor Popkin. Hang on.
Thank you, Mayor Peck. I just wanted to request at a future meeting that we allow for 3 dates of virtual participation for myself in these meetings in the upcoming 6 months. And I'll just put the dates on the record so we can prepare that for next week or whenever the mayor feels we should discuss this. The first is April 15th. That's a Tuesday night, April 15th. And then it would be July 29th and August 5th. I have
Okay.
professional conflicts with my day job there. I'll be out of
Okay.
town. Thank
And
you.
that's a motion to put it on a future agenda.
Yes, so moved.
Okay. All right, that's been moved and seconded, moved by Councilor Popkin, seconded by Councilor McCoy, to add to a future agenda for him to be able to remote into our meetings, to attend virtually. I would like to have a friendly amendment or just add to that I would like it to be, the vote for that to be on the next meeting, if that's possible. Okay, great.
Thank you.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, let's vote. Whoops, there we go.
You vote in favor.
That carries unanimously. The next thing on our agenda item is our city manager's report. Do you have a report for us?
No report, Mayor and Council.
Okay, we have no special reports or presentations, so we're at first call, public invited to be heard. The first person, remember that we need your name and address, and you have 3 minutes. The first person on the list is Michael Bailey.
Hi there, my name's Michael
Michael, would you turn on the microphone, please? Upper left or right?
There? That's good.
You got it.
My name is Michael Bailey, live at 1212 South Emery Street here in Longmont. I haven't been a part of all the conversation about the Quick Trip store that's been proposed to come to town. I can tell you, I've moved here recently from Austin, Texas, and about 5 years ago, Quick Trip started moving into Austin, Texas, Austin and San Antonio. And I just have to say that I'm a big fan of the Quick Trip stores. They're not just a gas station. A lot of people think just another convenience store coming to another corner in your town. But what I've found is they have a tremendous focus on service and quality food and things like that. And there are a lot of other customers who sort of become fans. We've got, every time I meet somebody, we stop about, sometimes there'll be conversation about Quick Trip. People will just light up and say, "Oh my goodness, there's one coming to your town, or there's one in my neighborhood." So I would make it it'd be a shame to, to avoid.
Excuse me, City
Mayor,
Attorney.
Eugene May, City Attorney, I'm sorry to interrupt your public invited to be heard. It sounds like this matter is the matter coming up on the agenda on appeal.
Oh,
And
of course.
During the agenda item, council will have the opportunity and discretion whether or not to allow for additional evidence. And I think this testimony may be more appropriately handled at that time.
Thank
I
you.
wasn't sure about the first call or if I wait till the 12 to the business meeting.
I think probably the second.
Okay, we'll do it then.
When we do the business meeting.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, City Attorney. So the next one on our list then is, and I hit our list. Bobette Berger. I'm sorry, is there a ghost in there?
I'm pushing buttons over.
Is it okay?
Go ahead, yeah, come on up.
I am Bobette Berger.
Bobette,
you-
would you mind pulling the mic down to your, there you go.
Yes, I know I'm short. I'm sorry. It's good to want more of me. Bobette Berger at 2196 Winding Drive. And if you're getting picky with the real name, Bobette is my middle name and John, Jon, is my first name. Last week it was brought to my attention in a discussion with another neighbor that we had some questions about a home sale that had happened, and discovered that one of the family homes in our neighborhood, which is a tight little neighborhood, near Rough and Ready Park, near Alpine Elementary, and it has been rented out as a sexual offenders facility. We were not notified of this. And in a location where there are so many children and women and men and families that are using the park and going back and forth to school, we're very, very concerned about this. We were never made aware of the decision. I don't know how decisions got made for that and how permissions were given, or maybe they weren't. I don't know. But we're concerned for so many things, the welfare of others as ourselves, as well as ourselves, and concern for home values. And it's just been such a surprise, and I thank you that I'm able to be here and talk about this so quickly, because we found this out last Monday. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Bobette. Charlotte Iverson.
I didn't have time to print this out, so I got to look at my laptop here. My name is Charlotte Iverson. I live at 182 Olympia Avenue. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the City Council. My name is Charlotte Iverson. I speak to you tonight about a home located on 2200 Winding Drive. It came to my attention this weekend that 5 male felon sex offenders are being housed at that address. This is extremely disturbing and a major concern for me and others in the neighborhood about our safety. Since I did not know how familiar you are with our neighborhood, I would like to share a description with you. The home is located in Prairie Village South. It is a single-family subdivision. It is primarily populated with young families and senior citizens. It has two-story homes that are primarily used by young families and ranch-style homes for senior citizens like myself. The location, the home in question is about 100 to 150 feet from Rough and Ready Park, a small neighborhood park where children play soccer, etc., and school-age children access Alpine Elementary School to go to and from the school. Numerous children routinely access the school by walking there or riding their bikes to Alpine Elementary School. The community is families and I in this neighborhood were purchased years ago due to its proximity to the school and the park, a plus for children to go to school and to play. It allows our children and grandchildren to experience a world like we did and enjoyed. Going to the park, getting on the merry-go-round, shooting baskets and swinging on the swings. A normal childhood in a safe neighborhood that we chose to meet our needs and the desires for our lives and our families. Proximity, there are at least 7 children that I know personally that live a minimum of 200 feet from this home in question. 2 children, in fact, live in a home that butts up to this home, separated only by an alley. Our neighborhood truly is one that children ride bikes, scooters, walk, play, and play soccer. Seniors walk in the neighborhood and along the greenways. We want what all rational people want, to feel safe in their homes and surroundings.
Well done.
Is that it? You're not going to let me finish?
No, it was 3 minutes that you got like everybody else. And I would like to say thank you so much for bringing this to council. If there's anyone else in the audience that is going to address this, I want to direct you to our safety. Okay, to our Assistant City Manager, Joni Marsh, as well as our Planning Department, Grant. So we do know about it now. Thank you very much. And I would like to direct you to them for explanations and further discussion.
So you're not going to address this issue to the contingent of homeowners that came
I'm
here
sorry,
tonight?
your time is
Okay.
up.
Okay.
And
I just asked you a question. I'm sorry.
no, we can't respond during public invited to be heard. It isn't you. It's the process. So,
Okay, well,
okay. And it looks like our city manager is going to speak with you as well.
okay.
Thank you.
There's a whole bunch of us back here. So I'm not happy.
Okay, we're going to continue now with our list. Virginia Schuster. So the AI said go.
I'm going to be a little lighter.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, I'm Virginia Schuster, 544 Hilltop Street. And first of all, I want to thank you all for your time as City Council people. We really value your time. And I'm here tonight in support of Longmont Public Media. I'm suggesting that Longmont Public Media could be a valuable resource for City Council. It could be a way to make an impact on our growing community who has a lot of issues and agendas going on right now. Longmont Public Media is one of the few remaining public access stations in Colorado run by an independent nonprofit organization. They're the only media makers space in the country. I've been involved with them for about 5 years. They uploaded my interviews with small business owners, which helped market those local businesses for our community. And over this time, I've seen them help many individuals as well as many other businesses who know about their extensive services. Today's world is all about social media. So not only is Longmont Public Media on Channel 8, they're also on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, and I believe more. So social media is the modern way to bring this community together. So I've printed out for you, and I know Diane, maybe I'll give it to her to share with you, Sergio's list of many benefits. It's a whole page, and contact information about the various roles on how Longmont Public Media could bring together our community, including cost savings for the city. So Longmont could be the example across the country on bringing communities together. Thank you.
Thank you. John Fisher? He must be part of the group outside. Greg Morrissey.
Good evening, City Council. Greg Morrissey, 1648 Harvard Street here in Longmont. I got a couple issues. I was on the your website tonight, and your photo needs to be updated. You're working on it? Okay. And the other thing I want to bring up is these power poles and lighting poles throughout the city of Longmont. They've been there for many, many years. Some of the ones I've walked by need some repair. And I'm wondering how long they're going to be there. Is there a process, or are you looking into updating them, making them more modern and making them more light? Because they've been for a long time. The rust on some of these devices is pretty bad. And these devices hold your power meters for your house, the ones they sit in front of. So you got a fair amount of power there too. If some of that metal corrodes, hits across those conductors there, you're going to have some trouble. So I don't know if you looked at it, looked in it, because even some, I don't know if you can get spare parts for anymore for the light fittings on the top and the glass that goes around the four sides. Parts even available for it. And I think it might be a good time to get an upgrade, because some of the ones I walk by when I go on my walk, they're in some pretty bad state of decay and need to be replaced or upgraded. And also upgraded to handle the weather we have here in Longmont, the hot days and the pretty cold winters. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. Edward Grief? I'm sorry, I mispronounced that. Grife, okay.
Edward Greif, 6024 St. Vrain Road, Longmont. Good evening, everyone, Mayor Peck, City Council members. I want to take a moment to focus on a major issue that is clearly illustrated in this pie chart: the overwhelming presence of flight schools operating at Vance Brand Airport and the impact they have on our Longmont community. This pie chart tells a troubling story. Flight schools dominate Vance Brand Airport, making up 80% of all air traffic. And the problem is growing. Last year, air traffic increased massively, bringing us to 120,000 flights per year. That means, assuming they fly 330 days a year over a 12-hour flight window, a plane takes off or lands every 4 minutes. Imagine that. Every 4 minutes, another airport is disrupting our community, but we don't imagine it. We live it. At the current rate of increase, we'll have operations every 3 minutes, around 230 operations a year. The FAA suggests traffic patterns for planes which have not been respected. Flight schools should never extend more than a half mile from the runway. They are not to fly below 1,000 feet. The flight schools have blatantly violated these rules and have not been accountable in any way. As well as noise and lead pollution, there's a significant safety risk. Small aircraft crash 5 to 8 times a day nationwide, nearly 3,000 times a year, many involving student pilots practicing low-altitude maneuvers. More training flights mean more mistakes, more risks, and a higher chance of accidents over our homes, our parks, and our schools. This is most critically underscored by the fact that there's absolutely no air traffic control tower or controllers at this airport. We have planes using runways every 4 minutes, and they're being fully orchestrated by student pilots communicating over radio, all vying for their own space over 180 times a day and growing, as I stated earlier. The data is clear. Vance Brand is no longer a municipal airport. It's a high-traffic training hub that puts Longmont at risk. And the worst part, 90% of these flight schools come from outside municipalities, meaning Longmont absorbs all the noise, all the pollution, and all the risk while gaining none of the financial benefits. The city is facing every single one of these drawbacks presented by flight schools, every single risk, while reaping none of the benefits. The problem is not hopeless, though. We propose, as well as limits on training hours and flight caps, that the institution of a landing fee could show critical benefits and signal to flight schools that our airport isn't a tool to be abused at our expense. The airport needs the revenue from landing fees to become self-sufficient and eliminate the need for FAA grants. Longmont should not suffer so the flight schools can profit. Let's stand together and demand real change. Who's more important to Longmont, the flight schools or the wonderful people of Longmont?
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you for the illustration.
Oh, you're more than welcome.
Scott Stewart.
Mayor Peckman, members of the council, Scott Stewart, 229 Grant Street. Go. The airport lacks a plan to be self-sustaining. It continues to rely on obligated grant funds. When the airport was first conceived, it was simply an airfield for local users, but built just outside of town. We are no longer a small sugar beet farming town with an airplane hobby. This strip of land was never intended to accommodate what is happening today. Modern airfields and airports are typically 1,000 acres plus, not less than 300. We are not built, and they are not built within 3 miles of city center. Longmont Airport sometimes falls into the conversation that it's part of the national airport system. The FAA guiding principles for national airport systems are already being met in Longmont without the Longmont Airport. These principles say that an airport should be within 20 miles of a population center. Longmont has that twice over. Fort Collins, Loveland, Jeffco both meet the principles of the FAA principles. These nearby larger airports have longer runways, crosswind runways, and tower controls. They are far better equipped to handle increased traffic. When the Longmont Airport was conceived, the impact was nowhere near what the airport is trying to become. Longmont doesn't need to be the jet hub for Boulder County, or the free-for-all for the landing spot, or free-for-all landing spot for all the small aircraft that don't spend any time or money on the ground in Longmont. If you spend some time reading the master plan or listening to the Airport Advisory Board discussions, growth of this airport in jets is the airport community vision of the future. I can appreciate the enthusiasm of the airport community, but the airport operational increases are often in conflict with the current community and the growth and development of the city. Longmont does not even have control of its own airport because we continue to take obligated grant money. I ask you to do the future councils a favor. Stop taking obligated grant funds and create revenue stream that allows the airport to pay its own way. 20 years from now, City Council or the voting public will be able to make their own decision on what happens with the 261 acres and the surrounding land, without being told by the FAA what they can and can't build in their own town. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Scott. So the next one is Nathan. Nathan, I am not going to mess up your last name. Is there somebody, Nathan? I think he must be part of the group outside. Adam LaPlante. He's outside. Anne Choquette, Jeremy Goss, Alex Littman,
Hi, my name is Alex Littman. I live at 2450 Airport Road, but I'm not here to talk about the airport. I am a trans woman. I was born and raised in Colorado, and I currently live right here in Longmont. I'm standing here today as a plea for help. Me and my community are facing a rise in hate and discrimination across the country. Our passports and IDs are getting rejected and confiscated. Schools are banning books about us, and even the federal legislative body is throwing around slurs about us with little consequence. The new administration recently released an executive order trying to legislate us out of existence, wherein they ban us from all kinds of competitions, not just sports, but chess and darts too. They've threatened parents of trans kids with child abuse, and they've declared our surgeries and life-saving medications as mutilation and castration. Most alarming is they have threatened to take away funding to hospitals who care for trans children and trans adults under the age of 19. And here in Colorado, which is supposed to be a progressive and safe state, the University of Colorado Health Hospital and Denver Health Hospital have both banned trans care for children and adults. Many state institutions and nonprofits are erasing vital information about trans people, including Health and Human Services, the Food and Drug Administration, the Center for Disease Control, the Rape, Abuse, and Incest National Network, and the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. This is disgusting, especially since statistically, trans and queer people are much more likely to face abuse, sexual violence, and discrimination. I could go on, but in short, they want you to think trans women are evil, trans men just don't exist, and biologically intersex people just don't exist either. This is blatantly unconstitutional, and you don't have to take my word for it. Judges have already struck down the executive order, but institutions aren't stopping. U.S. District Judge Anna C. Reyes said, "You can't tell me that transgender people are not being discriminated against today." I'm here, I'm queer, and I'm just a normal person. But I'm scared. I'm worried they'll take my medication away. I'm worried about being harassed in the street and in bathrooms. My whole community needs as many allies as we can get to stop this fascist regime from legislating our existences away, or worse. There's not an ordinance or resolution concerning trans people today, but there very well could be soon. So please think about what you can do to protect trans people here in Longmont in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. Harish, Dan,
My name is Harish Dand, and I'm owner of the Hilton Garden Inn on 470 South Martin Street. And I'm here for Council's positive consideration for Longmont Tourism Incentive District. We are trying to assess 2% tax to the visiting people so we can invest in the marketing and advertising for the Visit Longmont. And it's not only going to benefit the hotels with more people coming and staying with the marketing that we do, but it will benefit the city of Longmont because these people, when they come here, they buy the food here, they buy the gas here, they buy the restaurant supplies and everything. So I'm here for council to consider that as positive in their upcoming meetings. Thank you.
thank you. Catherine Loskeep.
Hello, everyone. My name is Catherine Spencer Inskeep.
Inskeep, I'm sorry.
That's okay. I live at 2011 100-Year Party Court, Unit 1, in the Prospect neighborhood. I'm here also in support of the proposed Longmont Tourism Improvement District, also known as the LTID. I'm a former Visit Longmont board member, and I've been involved with the TID since its inception. I just finished my my 3-year term in December. To me, the TID is a no-brainer. funds, it originates with the city's hotel partners and specifically addresses bringing more visitors to Longmont. More visitors equal more tax dollars and more spending and a better economy and less taxes for our residents. To close, there are actually a number of people here that support the TID, and I just want to point them out in this area. Thank you very much. Please consider this important incentive to bring more people to enjoy Longmont.
Thank you, Catherine. Steve Altshuler.
Good evening. Steve Altshuler, 1555 Taylor Drive. All right, I'm going. So how many people have been driving down the street and seen some construction going on, and there's 10 or 12 people out there, and 8 or 9 of them are leaning on their shovel, and one guy's driving a forklift or a backhoe and watching, the other 8 or 9 people are watching that one person work. And we're always like, dang, government workers are so inefficient, so wasteful. And it doesn't matter if it's city or state or federal. So that brings me to DOGE, Department of Government Efficiency. I don't see how anybody can have anything negative about that. DOGE is not interested in individual people, in what we spend our dollars on, where we go shopping, what we have to eat for lunch or dinner, or even our tax returns. They're looking for efficiency and getting rid of government waste. That's it. There are a couple states that also want to start doing a DOGE for their state, and I think every city should do it also. Check and see where the waste is. Here's a couple of examples. $69 million for the Eurasia Foundation to do digital transformation activity in Europe. And realize this is all our tax dollars. $520 million for a consultant to do ESG investments in Africa. $40 million to improve the social and economic inclusion of sedentary migrants. $42 million for Johns Hopkins to do research and drive social and behavioral change in Uganda. That's where I want my tax dollars to go. $45 million to address the needs, opportunities, and challenges identified by activists and other civic actors engaged in nonviolent collective action. Wasteful building services contract. As a result today, DOGE terminated the contract for convenience and have recorded savings of $40 million. Excuse me. Here's a good one. 10 million taxpayer dollars for circumcisions in Mozambique. $25 million for biodiversity in Colombia. Schools have spent nearly $200 billion of COVID relief funds with little oversight or impact on students. $393,000 to rent out a Major League Baseball stadium. And there's a whole lot more, but DOGE is helping America, not doing
Thank
anything
you.
harmful.
Thank you. Marie Nicholson.
Well done. It's so encouraging.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Marie Nicholson Hett, resident of 17 years, 1193 Fall River Circle. I'm here to thank you and everyone here, for your service. It is really something amazing, this thing called democracy. Longmont has had some struggles throughout its history. Namely, we had the KKK actually take over for a few years in the 20s and ousted in 1927. They held rallies on 3rd and Martin Street. At one point, a dozen armed Hispanic men led by Jose Hilario Cortez showed up to stand up to the Klan. In 1980, Longmont had the event now known as the Ferguson before Ferguson event. Jeff Cordova and Juan Garcia were fatally shot by the Longmont police. El Comite formed in response, and the entire policing of Longmont was restructured due to their hard work, and Mike Butler the public safety chief from 1993 to 2020. I'm really proud to be a Longmont resident. And I just want to make voice my gratefulness to all my neighbors, from Ed, an unhoused man who gives me jokes on the way to work, to the young 12-year-old who helped my then 8-year-old son who crashed on his bike, my babysitter, my neighbors, people I agree with, people I don't agree with. There are so many Longmontsters here who live and are unable to participate here, and it's hard to work and take care of your family and then come here and speak. Whether people rent or own, they have contributed and worked to make this community great. We have only each other, and I hope our community can continue to choose the hard path that upholds respect and compromise, but shuts down hate and racism as we've done in the past. And we look to the best path for all of us. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Brian, I'm going to try to say this. Comic? Byron. Last one.
There's plenty of Bryans around.
Yeah, welcome.
Thank you. Hi, Byron Komanek, 8102 North 95th Street, owner and manager of Jack Solar Garden.
Oh.
And I'm here in support of the Visit Longmont's appeal on the Tourism Improvement District. Having more funding that goes towards Visit Longmont helps support more marketing, more opportunities for tourists to come to city of Longmont, and that helps out with a lot of different businesses in the area. I work with different farmers around the community, and we're able to bring in different folks that have to stay at some of the hotels in town, that eat out at the restaurants, and it's always nice having additional marketing dollars that go towards helping bring folks into our community. I also know a number of the breweries around town that I always appreciate having other folks thinking about how best to bring in more revenue through more folks coming from Denver, Fort Collins, other parts of the country. I'll also say I was a diplomat with the U.S. Agency for International Development serving in Mozambique, and our dollars, our federal dollars, happen to go towards helping make our country more secure. So,
Right.
Thank you all very much for your time. Cheers.
Thank you, Brian. Seeing no one else on the list, I'm going to close. First call public invited to be heard. And we are now at the consent agenda. Don, would you mind reading the consent agenda into the record?
Absolutely, Mayor. The ordinance is on consent tonight. The second reading and public hearing for all these ordinances will be on March 25th, 2025. Item 9A is ordinance 2025-21, a bill for an ordinance amending Title 9 and Section 2.97.010 of the Longmont Municipal Code concerning management of plastic products and establishing enforcement provisions. Item 9B is Resolution 2025-11, a resolution of the Longmont City Council approving the intergovernmental agreement between the city and the Longmont Housing Authority for support and services. Item 9C is Resolution 2025-12, a resolution of the Longmont City Council approving an agreement for economic development services with the Longmont Economic Development Partnership. And item 9D is approve one capital improvement program amendment.
Thank you. Are there any questions, or does anyone want to pull anything off of this consent agenda? Councilor Christ.
I would like to pull 9A.
And I would like to pull 9D.
So I move that we move the consent agenda minus A and D.
Second.
Consent agenda has been approved minus items 9A and 9D, and that was moved by Councilor Chris, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Hidalgo Ferry. Are there any questions? Whoops. Councilor Popkin.
Thank you, Mayor Peck. Councilmember Christ, I was just hoping you could clarify if this is allowed at this point.
We'll pull those back after, it'll be after, ordinance second reading. It's
Right.
part of the agenda to pull it back, and she will explain at that time.
Oh, and if we don't approve, we're moving. Okay, thank you. I will hold.
Okay. So we are now approving the consent agenda minus 9A and 9D, so we're not going to discuss them at this point. Any other discussion? Seeing none, let's vote. And that carries unanimously. We are now at ordinances on second reading and public hearings on any matter. The first one is 2025-18. This is a bill for an ordinance making additional appropriations for expenses and liabilities of the City of Longmont for the fiscal year beginning January 1st, 2025. Are there any questions from council about this bill? Seeing none, I'm going to open up the public hearing on 2025-18. Is there anybody in the chamber that would like to comment or discuss this bill? Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing and ask for a vote. Okay.
We've pulled 9D, which actually relates to this ordinance. So I'm wondering if we should go ahead with passing or holding that ordinance until we've discussed 9D.
9D?
D, yeah, and that's your item that you pulled, so. 10A relates to item 9D, which is the capital improvement amendment. And
Harold, would you like to address
10A
that?
is the funding for that, includes the funding for that.
So 9D is the capital improvement amendment that I have to let you know about. The funding is in 9A. So if there's a question regarding 9D, it would probably be good to have that conversation now as part of 9A.
Okay.
10A.
10A.
10A and 9D.
Okay.
We got it.
So I'm going to augment this agenda to discuss on first reading 9D. That's the one that I pulled, and I just have a question. Why does this amendment state that the commuter line is from Boulder to Denver and not from Longmont to Denver? And the reason I'm asking is this has to do with the transit station, which is in Longmont. I'm confused as to why.
My computer just messed up. So,
Okay.
so generally, I'm going to kind of bring all of this together.
Okay.
So as part of the transit station project that we're looking at in First and Main, this is really what the 600,000 is about.
Right.
You are correct that under RTD's fast tracks, the commuter line is from Longmont to Denver. If you look at the conversation that's occurring now with Front Range Passenger Rail, potentially actually being part of this, it's really from Fort Collins to Denver. And so I don't know why that's in there, but we'll make sure that we get it corrected.
Okay.
The 600,000 in the budget amendment. So if council will remember, we had one-time funds that were associated with the adjustments to the property tax ratio. And we treated that as one time. In terms of the acquisition of this property, we had utilized all the budgeted funds to acquire the property. This is the last parcel that we need to acquire in order to build the First and Main Transit Station, which we're under contract with RTD to have finished by the end of 2027. So this facilitates this. In terms of the capital improvement amendment, we'll make sure that it does state from Longmont to Denver.
Thank you. And one of the reasons that I am concerned about it is that we do not know with the funding chaos right now that what FRPR will actually be doing. And if this,
Correct.
Yeah, so thank you for that. That was my only question.
Can I ask a question as well? Harold, was this originally budgeted in the budget for, were we aware that we needed another $600,000 for this project?
No, I think that conversation occurred after the budget process in terms of what we were trying to do. Trying to remember back in time. We were going through an evaluation on the property, and it was just taking a long time to get responses. When we finally got a response, based on the timelines that we had, it necessitated this decision. Teresa, how much do we have in that account? Can you come up and help me with this? I want to say.
Yeah, that's the second part of my question is there something we have to give up to do this?
No.
Or does it put us in a pinch in any way?
No, this is one-time funding that was available in the budget, so we couldn't use it for ongoing issues. And so there's nothing that we're having to give up on this.
So it wasn't encumbered?
Correct.
Okay.
That's why we're having to run the budget amendment through. And it was held in a, where's Teresa? I'm right here. You want to come up and help me? It was, what account did we put the one-time funding in?
It is in the general fund non-departmental.
Yeah, so it was in the non-departmental account, so then we're taking the 600,000 out of the non-departmental account and sliding it into this account to finish the acquisition of property for First and Main Transit Station.
Yeah, the total of $2.6 million in one-time property taxes was included in the 25 budget. So that's why you're not seeing it in the appropriation. It is appropriated dollars. So as he mentioned, we're just moving it from a non-departmental account number and into the project.
Okay.
Okay. We had moved a few items into the general fund that aren't normally there, and I just want to make sure that those are not put at risk.
They're not, because this is one-time funds, what we moved in. If you're talking about the public safety positions, we actually utilize ongoing dollars for those.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for the clarification.
No problem.
Okay, so we'll go back then to items on second reading, and we'll deal with the first reading agenda and how we move that after this. All right, so no one on public hearing, so I'm going to close the public hearing for 2025-18 and ask for a motion.
I move 10A, 2025.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilor McCoy, seconded by Councilor Christ. Let's vote. And that carries unanimously. The second one is 2025-19. This is a bill for an ordinance conditionally approving the river annexation number 3, generally located at 26 South Sunset Street, and zoning the property in PF Public. Are there any questions from councilors? I have one. Please explain to me what the zoning property in PF Public means.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Nathan Jonesmeyer. I'm Principal Planner with Planning and Development Services Department. Public facilities is a zoning designation. It's one of the many different zoning designations that was established by the Land Development Code. It's primarily established for public uses, so that would be things like civic centers, government-owned properties, or stormwater improvement areas, which is in line with the proposed future use of this property.
Thank you. And if I remember correctly, this is located behind the Suites and Xenia property. Is that correct, or am I thinking of a different ordinance?
You're thinking of a different location.
Okay.
This location is to the south of Isaac Walton, and this is part of the Resilient St. Vrain project in terms of what we need for the Army Corps of Engineers.
Now I remember what it is. Okay.
I do have a short presentation if you'd like to see it with some maps and aerial imagery. If not, we can, I don't have to show it, but I do have one prepared if you'd like to see it.
How about, do the other counselors feel that you need to see that? You always say no. Okay, thank you so much, but it doesn't look like we need to see that.
Perfect.
Seeing no other, Counselor Popkin.
Yeah, not a question so much as more of a comment at this point. Just this is yet another stage of the Resilient St. Vrain project, as far as is that correct?
Yes.
So I guess is the question. That's great. The annexation is intended to basically facilitate this next phase and make sure that the Army Corps of Engineers and additional improvements can be done to facilitate this further, correct?
Yes, Councilmember.
Excellent. Well, I look forward to seeing that move forward.
Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no one else in the queue on council, I will open up the public hearing on 2025-19. Is there anybody that would like to address this? Seeing no one, I will close public hearing and ask for a motion.
I move ordinance 2025-19.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilor Chris, seconded by Councilor Popkin. Let's vote. And that passes unanimously. The next bill is 2025-20. It's a bill for an ordinance authorizing the City of Longmont to lease the real property known as Vance Brand Municipal Airport Hangar, Parcel H46, the premises, to Keystone Aerial Surveys, Inc., the tenant. Is there any discussion from or questions from council? Seeing none, I'll open up the public hearing on 2025-20. Is there anybody in the chamber that would like to address this bill? Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing and ask for a vote. A motion. I'll move 2025-20.
Second.
It's been moved by myself, seconded by Councilor Christ. Let's vote. That passes unanimously. Now we are at items removed from the consent agenda, and since the item I removed was already answered, I'll turn it over to Councilor Christ. And there you go.
Okay, so 9A deals with the Longmont Municipal Code concerning management of plastic products and establishing enforcement provisions. And I have to say, I'm not a big fan of plastic. I grew up in a family where if you couldn't recycle it, reuse it, incinerate it, you just didn't have it. That's the way it was out on the farm and, just in certain county situations. And so that's how I grew up, and that's what I learned to do. And I guess, in essence, I think we do need to control our plastic. However, I'm concerned that we are charging fees for recyclable paper carry-out bags. Now, growing up as I did, we often only got paper bags, and we used them for everything, including for mulch. And I even used them in my litter box for my cat. So I feel like that is something that the grocery stores should provide for their customers. And if they feel like that is too expensive, then they should use cardboard boxes like the Natural Grocer does or Costco does. And I think this is a bit of a burden on the city to collect 60 cents on every bag and demand all the accounting for it, so that then the stores can also get 40 cents for their bags.
I think it's 6 cents.
Oh, I'm sorry, 60%. 60% of your 10 cents. So yes, 6 cents. So the items in this ordinance that relate to that are 9.90.040. And then the other sections, A through C, 4, and then it picks up again at 9.90.050. And then there's the enforcement section, 2. Just seems like we could say no more plastic bags without having to make a big production out of it. So I see Assistant City Manager Sandy Cedar is here to enlighten me.
Thank you, Mayor Peck, Councilmember Christ. So this is a state law. All of these fees and the reduction of plastic pollutants, as well as the fees on the paper bags, that's all part of the state law. That was enacted over the last 2 years, and so you've seen some of those changes. We have been collecting those fees because that has been the state law for a couple of years. What this particular ordinance does is that it allows local enforcement. So after a year after the original state law had passed, part of what it says is that the state's not going to enforce it, but that locals could. So the rest of what you're talking about, the 10 cents for the paper bags and the collection of the fees, those are all required by the state. All we're doing is just letting you know that's what the state law says, and that we're asking to be able to provide enforcement activities if somebody were to, decide that they were going to go rogue and give out lots of plastic bags, I guess. But the idea was that the state can't enforce it. We can't enforce it unless you pass this ordinance. And that's really the only reason for the ordinance. The rest of it is already codified in state law.
So we actually also have a choice to not enforce it or to not include that part of our ordinance.
True, if you don't pass this ordinance, none of those other things change. The paper bag fees continue, we continue to collect, all of those kinds of things still happen because it's the state law. What wouldn't happen is that there wouldn't be any ability to enforce it.
Okay, and that's what I'm proposing.
Okay.
That we just, and I do think there's some proposed legislation also in the state house, or maybe it's in the Senate to renegotiate this or reconsider it as well.
I haven't seen that one come up yet, but I'll keep an eye out for it.
Okay. So my motion would be that we choose not to enforce the 10% rule on bags.
No, we don't have the ability to do that, but what we can do is pull this bill separate and vote on it separately, and then not
moving it, and then if it fails, then we don't.
We can't pass the consent agenda. Well, we can pass. Let me run this past our city attorney. We can move to pass the consent agenda minus item 9A, and then
I think we could move to pass 9A minus the enforcement section. Am I correct?
9A is the enforcement section. So if it fails, then we wouldn't be able to
enforce it. We can't change the reading of the resolution. We either vote for it or down for this bill.
So we don't necessarily have to consent to have it on the and continue forward with the second reading. Or
Correct. If you decide that you do not want to do enforcement of the Plastic Pollution Prevention Act, then you would just vote this down.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, point of parliamentary procedure. So my understanding is that we have already passed the consent agenda.
Minus
this was now pulled to separately just being discussed by Councilmember Christ. I believe what you are proposing, and I guess this is now a point of clarification, is to amend the ordinance that is proposed. No, you are not proposing to reject it outright. You are proposing to amend a piece of this in terms of how enforcement is taking place in a certain amount. Is that correct? Just for the paper bag fee.
Well, that's the way I was originally going, but they're suggesting that we don't have to move 9A. We can just table it here or not advance it. I think we have to go back and advance. Or did we advance 9D?
No.
Mayor, if I may, we will.
I'm going to make a motion to pass 9D when you're finished.
Okay.
So you make your motion.
So we still have two that are outstanding, which is 9A and 9D. So we need to decide whether they move forward or they don't.
One at a time.
So you need to make a motion as to what you want to do with this, to either pass it or not pass it to second reading.
Now, is there a chance to modify it later, or it has to be modified now?
City Attorney.
Mayor and Council, Eugene May, City Attorney. Since it is first reading, I would prefer, the best is if you have specific amendments that you would like to make. If you have ideas, you could give staff that direction and we could try to implement it upon second reading, bring back a red line. The more specific information, the better.
Okay. I would like to remove section 9.90.070, which is the enforcement section of this ordinance.
So I'm going to weigh in here. This whole ordinance is about enforcement. So if you remove that, there is no ordinance. Am I correct? Okay. So if you would like to amend the enforcement amount, you do not want to enforce this, then I would suggest that you just make a motion to table it. Or to deny it, whatever you.
Okay. I don't read it as only enforcement, but I will make the motion to deny O 2025-21.
Crickets. Councilor Popkin.
Yeah, I am still a little confused because it's focused on enforcement, yes, but there are multiple elements of this provision that I think Councilmember Chris was trying to maybe more nuance. I don't want to put words in her mouth, but I believe you were trying to look at just the 10-cent fee for paper bags in terms of what you were concerned about enforcement.
I'm going to call on our Assistant City Manager, Sandy Cedar. She's the one who understands this. Let's have it explained to us.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor and council members, the rest of the ordinance that you see is a reiteration of the state law.
Right.
So you can take out the bag fee and we're still going to collect the bag fee because that's the state law. The only thing that is new to this is the enforcement piece. So that's the only reason for the ordinance. If you decided that you took out other pieces of it, we would still have to do those pieces because it's the state law. The only thing that's added is the ability to enforce. So that's really, it is completely a council policy decision if you'd like for us to enforce the state law in this area, and that's it.
Basically, we're saying without this ordinance, it is a voluntary compliance.
Correct. And that's what I'm advocating for. This section of enforcement is quite a burden on businesses, actually. You have to maintain accurate and complete records of fees collected, number of bags, underlying records, including books, accounts, invoices, other records necessary to verify accuracy and completeness, and you must keep them for 3 years. I'm not sure their 4 cents is going to pay for all that they're collecting on each bag.
Councilor Popkin.
Thank you, Mayor Peck. I guess just to speak to the issue more broadly here, I understand Councilmember Chris' concern. I disagree and think we should enforce as is. I have seen this implemented in a very similar form in my home state. It does not seem to be, and that was in Maryland, or the state I grew up in. Colorado is my home state now. It was implemented over a decade ago. It has not caused consternation to businesses and other implementation issues. It was a fee on both plastic and paper bags, disposable bags at that point. And frankly, the intent behind this, while I respect Councilmember Chris and appreciate her reuse of the paper bags for multiple purposes, there is still kind of this old adage, reduce, reuse, and recycle. And recycle is actually the least important word in that phrase. Then we want to reuse as much as possible, as Councilmember Christ has stated, and then ideally reduce our consumption of disposable bags. While a paper bag is not a plastic bag, by sheer material definitions, it is still another disposable bag, and the goal from both the legislation here and as a policy overall is to reduce the consumption of disposable bags, the materials used, and any waste that generates as well. So while I understand Councilmember Christ's desire to maybe have paper bags provided at no cost, there is still a cost to society in terms of how they are disposed and how the materials are produced. And so I'd encourage Councilmember Christ to continue reusing her paper bags, just as I do when I get them, but that it is not an unreasonable burden on businesses or individuals to help reduce our overall consumption while reusing the ones that we do need and paying a small fee to have those provided to us. So with that, I will not support any changes to the enforcement of this because I think that the intent is well aligned. The one thing I hope is different when we enforce this is that we make this actually digestible legislation into like a 1 or 2 page clear guidance to businesses, so that is not a burden to them, because it was a burden to me to read this arcane language that the state chose to use here, and I think that's extremely confusing for folks who are trying to digest what this is actually intended to do. It's relatively straightforward, but some of the definitions get really gummed up in the wording of this, so I would encourage and ask staff that in the implementation of this, should it pass, that we are as clear and succinct as possible in how this is efficiently implemented and enforced. Thank you.
So I'm going to end the discussion on this and call for a vote. I mean, a motion.
Well, actually, the new motion, I'll remove the other motion, the prior motion, but the new motion is to move 9A forward, removing the enforcement portion of 9.90.070.
Do we have a second? So that motion dies for lack of a second.
Okay.
I move 9A 2025, 2nd-21.
It's been moved by Councillor McCoy, seconded by Councillor Popkin, to move 2025-21. Any discussion?
I think we've discussed it.
Yeah. Let's vote. And that passes 6-1 with Councillor Christ opposing. And now I'm going to move 9D, approve one capital improvement program amendment. It's been moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Yarbrough. No discussion. Let's vote. And that passes unanimously.
Thanks for pulling that. That was actually good to know those details.
Yeah, it bothered me. So we are now at general business. This is an appeal of the Planning and Zoning Commission decision on Quick Trip conditional use site plan and 3 specific modification requests for the proposed development. I would like to invite Kristen, there she is, to the podium. Yes.
Thank you, Mayor Peck. At the time when this was received by and heard in a quasi-judicial proceeding on the Planning and Zoning Commission, I was still a Planning and Zoning Commissioner, and though I was not present for this meeting, because of the quasi-judicial nature of this and avoiding any conflicts of interest here, I am going to recuse myself from this discussion. So enjoy, and I'll see you later.
All right, thank you for that. Yes. Yes.
But he has to come back.
Good evening and thank you, Mayor Peck and council members. I am Kristen Cody, a senior planner with Planning and Development Services. This evening, I will be presenting the appeal of the Quick Trip conditional use site plan and the modification requests. The property is located at 733 Ken Pratt Boulevard, south of Ken Pratt Boulevard and east of South Pratt Parkway, covering approximately 1.84 acres. It was annexed in 1963 as part of the Southmore annexation and is currently zoned MUC. In accordance with Envision Longmont, the property is designated as mixed-use corridor. The council is considering an appeal of the denial of a conditional use site plan for a 5,312 square foot quick trip with 16 fuel pumps and the modification requests associated with this project. On January 15th, 2025, the Planning and Zoning Commission denied the application with a 3-2 vote, citing concerns about the lack of diverse uses which is in the MUC, which is mixed use corridor, zone, and requested modifications. Those modification requests include an increase in site lighting, so an increase in the overall site lighting to 2.26, where 2 is the maximum allowed, and an increase in the lighting in the fuel area to 10.67 foot candles, where 10 is the maximum allowed. A reduction in the requirement for building transparency, lowering the required 50% glazing to 40% on the north side, which is the Ken Pratt Boulevard facing elevation, and to 41% on the south side, which is the Grand Avenue elevation, to accommodate structural and operational needs. And landscaping adjustments on the eastern property border, where 3 trees and 15 shrubs were required by code. Their request was to reduce that to 0 trees and 45 shrubs. due to utility easements in that area. This slide provides a visual representation of the proposed site plan. The plan includes 2 ingress-egress points designed for efficient traffic flow and shared access with adjacent properties, a designated fueling area with 16 fuel pumps, the required electric vehicle infrastructure, and site connectivity, including access to both Ken Pratt Boulevard and Grand Avenue. This slide provides a visual perspective view of the proposed Quick Trip development as seen from Ken Pratt Boulevard to the south. This slide provides an aerial perspective view of the proposed Quick Trip development, showing its layout in relation to the surrounding properties and infrastructure. The application was submitted to the city in May of 2023, initiating the review process. The Planning and Zoning Commission held a public hearing on January 15th, 2025, where both the application and modification requests were denied. Following this decision, the applicant filed an appeal on January 22nd, 2025, bringing this request before City Council this evening. Tonight's appeal hearing will follow a structured process. First, city staff will present the appeal report, followed by a presentation from the applicant. If the council allows new evidence, both staff and the applicant will have a chance to respond. Next, council will discuss and ask questions before moving to a final vote. The council may choose to uphold, reverse, or modify the Planning and Zoning Commission's decision. As part of their review, council must determine whether the Planning and Zoning Commission's decision was an error. This includes considering the 3 appeal criteria, which are: was the denial unsupported by evidence in the record? Was the decision inconsistent with the review criteria outlined in the Longmont Municipal Code? Did the Planning and Zoning Commission exceed its authority or jurisdiction? Based on those findings, the council may uphold, reverse, or modify the Planning and Zoning Commission decision. This slide discusses the notification requirements. Notification was completed in accordance with the Longmont Municipal Code requirements. Tonight, as I previously stated, the council has 3 options: uphold the Planning and Zoning Commission's decision, concluding that the applicant appellant did not demonstrate that the decision was an error; reverse the Planning and Zoning Commission's decision, finding the applicant apparent provided clear and convincing evidence that the decision was an error; or modify the decision based on the findings from this evening's discussion. This concludes my presentation. City staff is available to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Kristen. Do we have questions for city staff from council? Seeing none, the appellant gets to have 15 minutes as well to make their case. Is there anyone here from Quick Trip? Oh, I see a couple. 15, yeah.
Good evening, Mayor.
Upper right to turn that on. There you go.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. Eric Carlson with the law firm of Foster Graham, Milston and Calisher. That's 360 South Garfield, Denver, 80209. We're pleased to be here tonight. Thank you for hearing this appeal. We acknowledge our burden tonight to prove to you, to show you the evidence, to help you understand how your Planning and Zoning Commission erred in their denial of this application. We will do that for you tonight. We also have our full team here tonight. We have Quick Trip Corporation, we have our engineers, we have our traffic engineers, we have our lighting professionals. We're going to ask you to reverse this decision and approve the project. So it's fair that you see the whole team and you have a chance to walk through the project. We will show how it meets all of the approval criteria. So I'd like to first introduce Quick Trip. I'll come back up. We'll have Quick Trip present. We'll have our engineer present on the site plan, and then I'll conclude with some evidence about where I think the Planning Commission saw this project under inappropriate approval criteria. So thank you for your time.
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor and Council, for having us here tonight. My name is Brittany Sikorsky. I'm Real Estate Project Manager for Quick Trip. Tonight we're under a little bit of a time constraint, so I'm trusting you guys are familiar with Quick Trip as we have one in Firestone. So I'll run through a quick presentation, but I'll be around after for any questions that you guys have. This first slide here is a few facts about Quick Trip. A few things I want to highlight is we've been around since 1958. We have a little over 1,000 stores all over the U.S. employing about 26,000 employees. Each new location creates an average about 20 new jobs, which we look to hire citizens of Longmont. And then I'd also like to highlight our pay. Store manager salary is $100,000 a year, and then average entry-level assistance is $55,000 a year. Here's a photo of our store. One thing I'd like to point out here is, if you notice, there's no line. The store is very clean and merchandised. Our coffee offer and our donuts. Our donuts are made fresh daily as well. Here's another photo of our store. I'd like to point out that we do sell normal convenience store items, roller grills, energy drinks, chips, and jerky, but we also have healthy items ready to go and grab, such as salads, sandwiches, and wraps. Another awesome thing about Quick Trip that separates us from our competitors is we like to stay up to date with our technology. If you see here, we have fryers that we're installing at some of our stores, our coffee bar there that I think we do have at the Firestone location at this point, and our fresh tea made to brew however you'd like it. So yes, we are a convenience store with fueling station and EV chargers, but we understand that in the future, the demand for gas may decrease. With our 5,300 square foot building, about 3,000 of that is dedicated to fresh food. We offer made-to-order personalized items as well as grab and go for more warmer for the folks that are in a hurry. I hope you guys had dinner for these next few slides. Here's our offer for grab and go. Frappes, cold brew, Red Bull infusions like some of our competitors offer. Breakfast items, lunch items, and fresh made sandwiches to go, personalized like Subway. And we also have those ready to go for people who are in a hurry. I understand we were denied at P&Z for not being a diverse use, but I hope this presentation showed you guys that we are a diverse use as we offer pizza, sandwiches, ice cream, coffee, grocery items, gasoline, and EV charging all under one roof. At this time, I'd like to turn this over to Todd Hager with Galloway. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. I am Todd Hager with Galloway. I'm going to go over some of the site plan details with you all this evening. So first off, as mentioned, is located at 733 Ken Pratt Boulevard. You can see that highlighted in the blue in front of you. Next is the site plan that was shown earlier. The C-store is located centrally to the site with the canopy just to the right or to the east. And also there are crosswalks, internal and external, helping mobility and connectivity for pedestrians. This slide talks about the off-site improvements. So to the north, you'll see the dedicated right turn lane into the site, along with the full build-out or partial build-out of Grand Avenue to the south, which highlights essentially the two access points. This slide goes over the EV charging area. So the southwest portion of the parking area highlighted in blue is where the ready and capable spaces have been provided. This is up to 18 potential spaces. Here are the building elevations. I just wanted to show these real quick just to show that there is a cohesive 360-degree architecture throughout the site. The following slide is for the canopy, continuing the similar architecture features and materials. You also will see the trash enclosures on the bottom center as well. This is the perspective that you all saw with staff's presentation, but basically I wanted to show this to show the whole entire development, both on the subject property and off-site, as mentioned. So not including the 3 administrative modifications, all planning code requirements are being met and satisfied. Here's just a few more. You guys saw this one. This is just from Ken Pratt looking south. This one is from Grand Avenue looking north. So the C-store's on the left, Canopy's on the right. Here is the view from the east. And here's more of like a little internal view that's looking to the southeast. So this slide just kind of goes over the notification that was required for the Planning Commission. So there was a 1,000-foot radius requirement for all mailings in parcels and properties surrounding the subject property. 299 mailings were sent out at the end of December, and no public testimony was given during that Planning Commission hearing. I'm going to touch just on this conditional use request since it is a conditional use site plan. So section 15.02.060, as you see in front of you, have 7 criteria that are kind of a summary of those criteria. All of those criteria for conditional use have been met. This was achieved by working closely with the planning and city staff throughout the duration of this project. And I'm going to go through the 3 administrative modification requests. So the first one is transparency. This is for the north or front elevation and also the south and rear elevation. The justification here is to accommodate structural needs and ensures cohesive design. The second one is lighting or photometric. And this is to enhance safety and visibility for all users. That includes employees and also customers that frequent this site. Part of the QT lighting program incorporates downcast, full, cutoff, and shielded lighting. And you can see here, this is a example of the lighting at nighttime for this subject property. No light spillage towards any residential development, which would be to the southwest in this property. All right, and then the last one is landscaping. This is the 3rd requested modification. And this is due to the site constraints for that utility easement that was mentioned earlier. So this perspective shows a really good view of all those shrubs, those 45 shrubs and 0 trees. Trees were essentially not permitted to be planted along that easement line. And I just wanted to go over the Longmont staff recommendation during that Planning Commission hearing. So this is pulled directly from the staff report, which recommended approval not only for the conditional use site plan, but for all 3 modification requests as well. And I believe that is my time, and I'll hand it over for the remainder of the presentation.
Thank you, Todd. So we wanted to give you a sense of the real site plan here. We recognize as a conditional site plan approval, that's what was in front of the Planning Commission. There were also 3 administrative modification requests, and so we wanted to give you a sense of that. We're happy to answer questions, talk about any of the specifics of those modifications, any specifics of traffic or the access, or any questions that you have, because we do know that what you can do tonight and what we ask that you do is that you reverse the decision and then approve the application. That's within your authority under the code. So let's talk about what we need to do now as our burden under the code. There are 3 ways in which the Planning Commission can err in their decisions here. First, the decision can be not supported by competent evidence in the record. Second, it can be plainly inconsistent with the review criteria. And third, the decision maker, the Planning Commission, the Planning and Zoning Commission, can exceed their authority or jurisdiction. So if we prove to you that any one of those 3 happen, you may reverse their decision and approve this application. Here we actually meet all 3. And let's start with a few things for you. So the Planning and Zoning Commission's decision was inconsistent with the approval criteria because we in fact meet all of the approval criteria for all of these applications. These are the Planning Commission's justification, their sole justification up on your screen here is that the project does not represent an adequate diversity of uses within the MU zone district in which it is located. There is, however, no approval criteria that says there must be an adequate diversity of uses in the MU zone district. It simply doesn't exist. That's not an approval criteria. We have to surmise and say, likely where they were going is that it's the first approval criteria on your screen that says the application must be consistent with the comprehensive plan, the purpose of the code, the purpose of the zone district. So we surmise it's that, right? They're saying there's something here that's inconsistent with the comprehensive plan, there's something that's inconsistent with the zone district. I'd like to start with the purpose of the mixed-use corridor zone district because it says, among other things, its purpose is to promote a wide range of uses, including attached residential, professional office, and general commercial goods and services that serve residents and businesses, as well as, and I emphasize here, complemental uses to support travelers. We know Ken Pratt Boulevard is a heavy traffic corridor. We know that there are a lot of uses here that serve vehicular access. We look at the comprehensive plan, perhaps they were saying, well, there's a goal 1.2A says must strive for a balance of uses. Perhaps that's, what they saw in the comprehensive plan that they felt maybe didn't meet criterion A. It's the only finding that we have. However, there is a vast diversity of uses here. If you look at the mixed-use corridor area here, it spans a large portion of Ken Pratt Boulevard as well as Main Street. There are many uses, a wide variety of uses. We have townhomes, single-family homes. We see retail and services. There are multiple salons, several coffee shops, many auto parts stores, many restaurants. So I think you see where I'm going. We have multiple of many of the same uses here, right? So as the Planning and Zoning Commission cite to, well, there's 3 other gas stations here in somewhat of a proximity. Well, there are several restaurants. There are also several restaurants. There are also several coffee shops. There are also several salons. So the existence of of a few other uses, not to mention the fact that Quick Trip is in fact, distinguishable from these other uses. One of the gas stations that's on the other side of Ken Pratt Boulevard is associated with a grocery store. We know that's not the same use. It's a canopy on the opposite side of a grocery store parking lot. There's a convenience store, 7-Eleven, close to it. They don't offer fuel. They don't offer electric vehicle charging stations. There is a Circle K that offers both fueling and a convenience store. They don't have the same fresh food options. They're, a far more aged use. So we look in this and we say, of the 188 pages of your comprehensive plan, there may be one goal that your Planning and Zoning Commission felt we did not meet, despite your staff's recommendation and your staff's citation to several other goals within the comprehensive plan that you meet, such as 1.4B, the activity generating uses, 2.1A, your multimodal connections. We also see 1.4A, employ a range of strategies that target infill and redevelopment where vacant lots exist. There's not much going on this property. There is great opportunity. This is a corridor where there are a lot of other diverse uses. Vehicular traffic is part of this. So we say that we are in the mixed use corridor. We know what our zone district is already. So perhaps when we have been zoned, that was an action taken at some point by this council to zone this area as mixed use corridor. There are a range of uses that are permitted within the mixed-use corridor, but certainly not every use. And so we look at this and we say the mix of uses plays a role, perhaps. I'll wrap up in just a minute. Oh, thanks. The mix of uses would certainly be applicable if, for say, you're rezoning areas of property, right? I'll wrap up. No problem at all. We'll take this down.
Okay.
This is inconsistent with the review criteria because we in fact meet all of the applicable review criteria.
Okay, we really are out of time.
Thank you for your time tonight. We respectfully request that you reverse the decision and approve this application.
So, council, do you want to hear from anyone else on this? Councilor Rodriguez?
Thank you, Mayor Peck. I don't have any additional questions. I did watch just this afternoon the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting because the committee meeting minutes didn't really do justice to the conversation. So I'm now seeing this presentation twice today. Thank you for that. So specifically based on what we're here to do tonight, as was mentioned and is accurate to the meeting, there was one item or one point that the commission based their denial. And that was, again, as mentioned accurately, the adequate diversity of use in the area. Well, that is one piece of the Envision Longmont plan, as noted, the comprehensive plan. Generally speaking, we don't judge developments based on our comprehensive plan. We judge them against our code. And there's nothing specific in our code to put some sort of number on uses per square foot or square mile in this concept. So it's very subjective for the commission to base their denial on something where there's actually no competent evidence in the record, in the sense that there was no study done or provided about every single use provided within a square 1,000 feet or a square mile of that property. And as that's the sole basis of their denial, I would move to overturn their decision.
Any other comments? Councilor Christ.
I'm looking at section 15.02.055, and it mentions transportation several times. I want to talk about, there's a bus stop right there.
I'll second it first, so we can continue. So we should have a second before we.
Oh,
go
we
ahead.
didn't do that, did we?
No, I
Okay,
didn't
go ahead.
ask for
I'll
it.
go ahead and second it.
Okay.
All right, so it's been
Continuing.
moved by Councilor Rodriguez to deny, to overturn the Planning and Zoning Commission's denial, and seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Hidalgo Faring. Councilor Christ, the only thing that we are really supposed to report on, to judge, is the fact that did we think that the denial was based, say it properly.
Well, there's three criteria.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but transportation was not one of them at all.
Well,
So-
actually, if they introduce more information, we're allowed to talk about that, I believe, if I'm reading my packet correctly. And so we've discussed this. This is his slide that he put up. But if you would rather, I just cut to the chase. I do think there is a lack of diversity in that area. I don't know as much about the code as Councilor Rodriguez does, but I can say that I think it's an interesting choice as to where they wanted to put that, their business. And I'm interested in having that business in our town, but I'm wondering if there might be a better place in Longmont for that to go. So I, at this point, would favor upholding P&Z's decision.
So I will comment. This is the land that they have. This is the land that they have to develop. So putting it someplace else is not a determining factor in this appeal process. So, Councilor Yarbrough.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a question, and forgive me if, whatever. I was thinking about across the street, I have this question for staff. Behind Starbucks, there are already, somebody put in all those charging stations. And I think with this one, how many charging stations Quick Trip is planning on putting in? 18?
One active.
Oh, one active?
There's one active, some number that are capable, and one that's like future. They don't all have to be operational immediately, is basically, and it's based on the state statute, I believe, that's dictating.
Okay. I just,
Let them answer.
yeah, thanks.
Yeah, you're really close. Yeah, we have one that's going to be ready to go right away, and then we have about 13 stalls that are ready. So if we do see the need to increase, we will.
Oh, okay.
So
Awesome. Have y'all ever thought about putting a library cabinet? No, just playing.
I have to
just
say,
saying.
that
It's a
really
great
is
area
not
for-
in the mixed use.
It's diverse property. I mean, diverse issues and things. Anyway.
Seeing no one else, let's vote on this motion to deny.
Mayor?
No, I'm sorry. Yes, to overturn P and Z's denial. City Attorney.
Mayor and Council, Eugene May, a couple of clarifications on Councilmember Rodriguez's motion. If it is to overturn PC's decision, staff will recommend further direction to staff to bring back a resolution at the next regular meeting to implement that direction. Second question is, there were 3 administrative modifications that went along with this. Clarification if Councilmember Rodriguez's motion is to approve those admin modifications. Another option would be to remand those back to PZ for them to determine. Council could give direction that they overturn the PC's decision on the diversity of uses issue.
So we could do this in 3 different motions, basically.
There are multiple options, but I would think it would be, clarification on the motion. One, if we're overturning, to provide staff direction to bring back a resolution. That would be the first question. And then the second question is what to do with administrative modifications if it were successful, the first one.
And this is for clarification. My question is, well, when I read this, I saw 3 different motions here. One about overturning the P&Z's decision on the mixed use, but the other one was our clarification on whether we agreed with P&Z on site lighting, building transparency, and landscaping. Are those 2 different issues, or?
No, Mayor, I agree. I don't think the PZ had made a decision on the 3 admin modification. They just denied based on the diversity of uses.
Okay.
So they didn't tackle the issue of transparency, landscape, and lighting.
Okay. I read it incorrectly.
Thank you, Mayor Peck. So in the meeting, there was definitely a lot of hand wringing about the difference between an administrative modification and a variance, and that took up a good portion. Apparently, that was something that the council changed after last time this property attempted to be developed. At the P&Z denied that application. It was appealed. We upheld that one. And according to Don Burchett, we then changed and allowed for administrative modifications to conditional use site plans if underneath 25%, except for a couple other things that are not pertinent to these 3. If you'll notice, the modifications requested, none of them actually are even particularly close to 25%.
Right.
And so, by and large, the Planning and Zoning Commission, while they did question, for instance, the candle fee changes and the transparency, none of them had a problem, or at least none of them voiced a problem with the landscaping modification whatsoever. That was trees on one side and removing them and adding more shrubs based on the utility easement that runs underneath that side, so it'd be stupid to put trees there, essentially. The transparency thing was not a deal breaker for the commission. There was one commissioner who specifically disagreed with the contention by the applicant that they couldn't build the property without a reduction in transparency.
Okay.
But, okay. And then for the foot candle or brightness issue of the canopy, again, this is a very small change, but what was pointed out by the applicant in that was that we have some of the most stringent standards because in this scenario, because it's within 250 feet of residences. And so they went with the very lowest foot candles that they could source from their main supplier, who supplies something like 90% of the lighting for gas stations and convenience stores. And so that's why they went to the specific foot candles that they did and asked for in that administrative modification. And generally, that seemed to appease the commission as far as any concerns surrounding excess light pollution. And so, since it's my motion, I'm going to amend to say, yes, the council should adopt a motion reversing the commission's decision, including allowing the administrative modifications to be granted, and directing city staff to prepare a resolution to present at the next available public meeting of council.
Okay. Counselor?
I second.
Okay. You seconded the amended
Yes.
motion. Thank you for the clarification, Councilor Rodriguez. That was very good. So the motion to deny the P&Z's, to overturn, thank you, the denial of P&Z's motion was made and amended by Councilor Rodriguez and seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Hidalgo Faring. Are there any other comments? Seeing none, let's vote on that. So that passes 5-2 with Councilors McCoy and Christ opposing. Oh, I'm sorry, because, yes, Councilor Popkin removed himself. So it was 4-2 with Councilor Kristen McCoy in opposition. Thank you very much, everyone.
You have got to get those assurances up front. I think we established that.
Was that T-ball? Okay, we are now at R 2025-13A1. No, we've already done this one. We're done. We are now at Visit Longmont B, Visit Longmont's proposed tourism improvement district, TID.
So you can
And
wait for Councilmember Popkin to rejoin.
yes, here he comes. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Are you ready for me?
I am definitely ready for you.
And council members? Thank you. I'm Sarah Leonard, CEO of Visit Longmont. And we're here again to share with you information about the proposed Longmont Tourism Improvement District, or TID. Visit Longmont and our hotel partners are coming together. We're not asking for more money from the city. We want to be part of a solution to economic challenges and opportunities. We are asking for the City Council to set up the framework and rules for a tourism improvement district in Longmont, and that's the draft ordinances and petition that you have in your packet. We still have some supporters that stayed in the crowd, so thank you to them for coming out. A Longmont Tourism Improvement District would focus on new visitors and new revenue into the community. We know when visitors stay overnight at our hotels, they spend more time and money in our community. This increases visitor spending on sales tax and other fees, contributing to the city general fund. Visitors also support our local businesses in Longmont by eating out, filling up their cars, and tasting our good beer. I have a couple of examples of how other communities have benefited from their tourism improvement districts. Mammoth Lakes implemented a Hug What You Love campaign, including messaging about visiting responsibly in their own backyard. They also created a simple Mammoth Lakes promise, asking visitors to sign a pledge towards sustainable behavior. These efforts have helped put Mammoth Lakes on the map as a sustainable community. In Corpus Christi, Texas, they developed a tourism academy with their TID revenue, a training program for frontline employees focused on customer service skills and knowledge of local attractions. This transformed the way employees interacted with visitors, creating high-quality experiences. And within the first 4 years of the Dallas Tourism TID, hotel occupancy increased on average of over 17%. With their additional funding, Visit Dallas doubled its conversion rate in securing 46% of bids for citywide convention and meeting business, completely changing the tourism economic landscape in that city. Closer to home, there are already Colorado communities that have TIDs, including Denver, Aurora, and Fort Collins. And we still have Cynthia from Visit Fort Collins, my colleague. She's the CEO of Visit Fort Collins, so she's out here also to support TIDs in our community as a way to invest in tourism destination marketing. Fort Collins approved an assessment of 3% in 2022 and raised almost $1 million on top of their existing lodgers tax to support marketing efforts in their off-peak seasons, additional group sales staff, art and cultural projects, and bids to attract special events. And just recently, on February 6th, or earlier, February 5th or 6th, our friends at Visit Boulder passed their TID, which they'd been working on last year. Since they'll start collecting in March, so not even a full year, they project that they'll raise an additional $2 million to their lodgers tax. I'm going to turn it over to our incoming board chair at Visit Longmont, Dave Flugie.
Hi, Dave Flugie, incoming board chair. And I wanted to speak to this because my career is tourism marketing. That's what I've done for 20 years, with 15 years working with the Colorado Tourism Office, and many of the destinations you see up here are clients of mine. You know, I always like to point out that if you're not growing, you're dying when it comes to your marketing dollars. They go less and less, or they go less further every single year. You know, while we look at the competition, or not competition, but our partners, and see how much they're spending and outspending us, the one thing I want to point out is we're not part of this conversation. When you go outside of our immediate area, we're not appearing beside them. We're not showing up as one of the important partners in northern Colorado. And so I think we need to look at this and really consider the fact that we don't have dollars to get out there and reach new markets and reach new visitors.
I just wanted to point out this, in the tourism world, we talk about this tourism circle of life as far as economic benefit and revenue. And I think today Longmont is in such a great position to share our stories and to attract new visitors to choose Longmont for their next business meeting, their next sporting event, their next visiting friends and family. With the right messages at the right time of year, we can manage visitation so that visitor spending continues to support businesses and grow jobs, and help pay for those services that benefit both our visitors and residents. Visitor activity also supports new business growth, entrepreneurs starting new businesses, and businesses staying open year-round. With increased lodgers tax or TID funds, Visit Longmont continues to implement and enhance and targeted destination marketing and management efforts so that visitors continue to choose Longmont and generate that continuous economic activity. I gave this stat at a previous presentation to you all in 2023 when we did research on the visitor economy in Longmont. Without the tourism industry, every Longmont household would have needed to spend an additional $7,000 to support that current economy. Imagine what we could do to enhance this circle and add to Longmont's economy. So the opportunity for Longmont with the TID is to create an added value revenue enhancement model focused on destination marketing and management. With increased market investment promoting overnight stays in Longmont, whether through sporting, musical, corporate events, or group tours, or through events like the recent World Ice Climbing Competition, we can increase visitor spending. When visitors spend more time and money in our community, they are creating economic activity like paying sales tax, which translates to additional revenue into the city's general fund, keeping money in the community and supporting core city services. Again, you can imagine what we could do pretty quickly collecting new TID revenue. A simple collaborative messaging campaign around traffic safety, slow down and stay a while, or perhaps a campaign highlighting sustainable travel, complementing Envision Longmont and the city's sustainability goals. I mentioned the World Ice Climbing Competition and Winterfest, which was just hosted by our partners at the Climbing Collective right here in Longmont. An added value revenue from TID could support this event each year, providing a quality experience for visitors at a time in February when we can manage and welcome more guests to our community. And I just want to note that the next couple images are AI generated, so don't get super excited. They're not real. But I was asked by our city partners and by others to really think big. Not just passing or supporting a TID, but what could happen in the future if we're successful with marketing Longmont to potential travelers. We can envision a future where Longmont is recognized as a leading green destination. We highlight eco-friendly practices in our lodging, dining, and other businesses. We continue to promote accessible transportation, such as the microtransit and bike-friendly infrastructure, and showcase farm-to-table dining, our local markets, and art and cultural experiences. The Longmont TID could be part of supporting a future partnership around a redeveloped passenger rail stop or a visitor information center in downtown Longmont. And here's where I got to thinking really big. Harold motivated me. Or imagine the Longmont TID as part of a plan to transform the Longmont Sugar Mill into a dynamic hub that captivates and attracts both residents and visitors. Picture a vibrant space, buzzing with quality dining experiences, craft breweries and distilleries, boutique shopping, while honoring the historic aspect of the buildings and incorporating local art. It's a destination in itself, inviting guests to experience overnight stays in historically restored accommodation and includes appealing living spaces for residents, offering breathtaking mountain views. These types of efforts could transform Longmont into a premier travel destination, generating economic growth and enhancing the quality of life for residents and visitors. To echo what Dave was talking about in today's destination marketing world, every community must compete for its share of visibility, attention, and respect. Every destination competes to attract the world's global travelers, consumers, and talent. Those communities who fail to compete will lose ground. They will be left behind. Thank you again for listening about the TID. I believe when people visit Longmont, they see opportunity, whether it's a new business, employees, or travelers. And I hope you will support this investment in Longmont's tourism economy and community. We're asking you to move forward in the reading process, the ordinances with our partners with the city. Thank you. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Sarah. Do we have any questions? By the way, that was a great presentation.
Oh, thank you.
Do I have any questions or comments from counselors? Seeing none. Oh, you got on the fast.
I'll hear something nice.
Councilor McCoy.
Well, I don't care if they were AI generated. I think they're the images that people need to see and get their heads around so that we have a greater understanding of what the benefits to the community this really is. So thank you for bringing that forward, and I really like this concept because, hey, we're going to be the largest city in Boulder County here very soon, and with that, we have to have the services that people are expecting. And it's not that I'm excited about grow. I'm just thinking that the thing of the community having the amenities that is expected in a city that large.
Councilor Popkin.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Peck. Thank you, Sarah. Just a quick question. So you mentioned a few other cities that do have these. And I'm curious if you could speak to kind of what you see in the broader kind of industry space here of cities that don't. Like, are they falling behind in this way? Like, is this a competitive advantage type discussion that we should be thinking about here? So would love to speak to that.
Madam Mayor and Councilmember Popkin, yes, definitely. I mean, like in any industry, you have to invest in marketing, and it's the same in destination marketing and management. And I would make the point that we at Visit Longmont not only put priority on marketing and attracting travelers, but managing that visitation at the right time of year when we can handle it, when there is growth and opportunity in our hotel partners and to support local businesses. But to answer your question, and you could see in that budget slide that just in Colorado, we're being outspent 2, 3, 4 to 1 with just the other visits, regular destination marketing budgets. And across the country, there are many TIDs. Any destination has to compete for travelers. We do partner really well with our Front Range partners. We collaborate on a lot of marketing campaigns, but we also have to get out messages about Longmont. So to answer your question, I think it's a competitive advantage if you don't have strong destination marketing and management budgets.
Yeah, thank you. And would it be fair to say, like, I mean, I guess if you could think, okay, if every other city and county or city in the region or on the Front Range had this kind of an investment and Longmont didn't, we would be kind of, if we were the last ones to do this just to keep up, we would see less benefit at that end because we'd be just kind of clawing our way back, right? And so in some ways, strategically, if we see this as a trend in the industry and kind of the competition that's happening across the Front Range economy and maybe beyond that, and maybe you could speak to that trend a little bit here, but if you see that as a trend, like, it seems almost a better investment to get ahead of that now than to try to catch up later. Is that a fair statement?
Yes. Councilmember Popkin, I don't know if Dave wants to speak too.
I do. I don't know if I need to do anything. So it's on.
Yeah, you do.
There we go. Am I good?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. I think it's a good time to point out, because oftentimes, this is what I deal with all the time with clients, is the competitive advantage. And being Colorado, we're so quick to say, we don't need to advertise. People are going to find us. We're here. And I was, again, having been with the Colorado Tourism Office for 15 years, I was part of it when they had gone away for years and said, we're not going to advertise. We're not going to have a tourism office because people will come and visit Colorado. And then what they quickly realized is they won't. They will, but not in droves. And so if we're not investing in that, if we're not putting the money in that, we're going to lose out to the people that will put that money. They will put that in front of them and say, this is the place you need to come and spend your Colorado vacation. And one of the things we've struggled with on the Longmont Tourism Office is getting out there and showing that we can be part of the Colorado experience. And it's something we haven't had the budget to do. And as somebody that works with Fort Collins, I can tell you, once we got those funds, it was suddenly like, oh my God, we can reach out and talk to new people. We can let them know about the offering we have in this area. And so it would put us at a disadvantage not to have that opportunity.
I would just add on to that we would lose market share. We would be, I think you alluded to, catching up. And without doing the research, I know that Colorado case study when I was in Alaska, we used the Colorado office case study when they defunded or lost, to talk about the loss not only in attracting potential visitors, but the loss in sales tax revenue generated or the loss in the economic activity that could have been there with added destination marketing investment.
Thanks. And so this is not just economic activity for the hotels that are participating. This is all of the downstream industries that tourism and just general regional economic activity like supports. So we're talking breweries, coffee shops, restaurants, shops up and down Main Street in Hover and Village of the Peaks and everywhere else in between.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Well said.
Thank you.
Seeing no one else in the queue, our council direction is to provide policy direction on the formation of this LTID. So I would like, we don't really need to vote, we just need to give you direction. Do we need a motion? Okay, let's go for it. Can I have a motion then? Councilor Yarbrough.
Just move to direct staff to move forward with it.
Yeah, what he said. No, I'm just playing. I move that we direct staff to create a policy or whatever ordinance for Visit Longmont proposed tourism improvement district.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilor Yarbrough, seconded by Councilor McCoy. We've already discussed it, so let's vote. I don't have it. Yes, definitely in favor. Oh, I came up. So that has been moved 6-1 with Councilor Christ opposing. Thank you very much.
Thank you much
Good
for your
luck.
time. Thanks.
So we are now, before we do the legislative bills, can we please take a 5-minute break? 5-minute break. I know, you want to go through? Yeah. Okay, let's come back. We have one more. Okay, 1 minute. 40 seconds.
Yeah, is that what that is?
I'm waiting for Diane Christus. I don't know where she is. Well, we're going to start without her. So, Sandy Cedar with our legislative update bills.
Hello, Mayor Peck and members of council. Sandy Cedar, Assistant City Manager. I'm here with one bill today, and it's kind of a funky one. This is Senate Bill 05001, considering the administration of elections and creating the Colorado Voting Rights Act. Now, on its surface, the Colorado Voting Rights Act really is out there in order to protect people and provide equitable and accessible elections. Obviously, the city council and city staff is very for equitable and accessible elections. But the way that it does it is it creates a couple of problems constitutionally, and it also begins to blur the lines between the state laws of election and municipal elections. This bill only applies to municipal elections as opposed to state elections. I'm not sure why that would be the case. And it uses the references of state election law. So there are actually two different pieces that govern elections. There's the one that governs the state elections and county, and then there's one that governs municipal. So they're taking a lot of the verbiage that would basically change the state laws and kind of mishmashing it so that it is creating an issue for municipalities. So essentially what it does is it's got four different pieces to it. It modifies certain election-related statutes, including around Indian tribes, voting, their terminology, Indian tribes, voting-related services for individuals with disabilities, election-related language access, and election-related data collection. Some of these things we already do, and then other pieces of it, as I said, it's just mixing the wrong venue for what's happening.
It's convoluted.
It is convoluted, and like I said, it's tricky because fair and equitable elections are the foundation of our democratic process, but the way that they're asking to do it actually violates the Constitution. So I guess our suggestions, the Colorado Municipal League has an amend position on this. for the same reason, right? They believe in equitable and accessible elections as well, but want to change it to make sure that it actually applies to municipalities in the right way. So that's our recommendation to you today, but it is completely up to you how you'd like to move forward with this bill.
I would like to call on Councillor McCoy.
Well, I thank you, Sandy, and thank you, Mayor Peck. I just am looking at something like this, that nobody wants to just go and say, oh, no, we're not for equitable elections. Right. That would be silly. But it's always strange how the state legislature always wants to, they don't quite stay in their lane and want to dive into our bailiwick, our area of the political, ideology aspects out there, and then they would like us all to say, oh, but by the way, we understand you're a home rule city, and so it's just always frustrating to me, and I would hope that we would just either go with an amended position that along with the Colorado Municipal League, or deny it outright.
Councillor Popkin.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Peck. I'll echo Councilmember McCoy's comments on, obviously supporting the intent here, and I think the question is how this actually gets implemented. Sandy, could you speak a little bit more to kind of this Colorado State Constitution legal issue that the Colorado Municipal League flags and others probably have as well?
Yes, absolutely. And as you can see, I've attached a couple things for you. Actually, Don helped me with this. Thank you so much, Don. Not only information from the proponents, but also from Colorado Municipal League. And in the Colorado Constitution, it explicitly grants municipalities control and power to regulate all matters pertaining to municipal elections. So just that in itself, the fact that the state would come in and put any other regulations or any changes to the way municipalities do their own elections, that immediately is a violation of the Constitution. The Colorado Supreme Court has expressly rejected that local elections are a matter of state or even mixed state and local concern. So this has gone through, courts and has been upheld. So just the fact that they're diving in any way to the municipal election laws is kind of the nose under the tent, or however you put it, the first foot in the door that makes it unconstitutional.
Yeah, thank you. And then just another piece of this. So one of the things that the bill allows is for an individual to file a lawsuit against a municipality if they're alleging voter suppression, voter dilution, other unlawful voting practices, which I guess might, I obviously do not support those types of practices. So my question here is, can individuals already do that, or is this allowing a new way to kind of check municipalities that aren't abiding by that?
It's a good question. I learned from a former city attorney that people can sue anyone for anything, basically. And so people can bring those kinds of suits for any kinds of reasons, but this really makes kind of a pathway for folks to be able to do that. It does increase liability for the city, but of course we would take those kinds of concerns very seriously if they came up.
Right, so if Longmont was reducing access to ballots or not providing, there
are ways that people can be able to bring that forward
challenge that.
To challenge it, right?
So some of the main kind of areas that this act is trying to work on is improving voter services, multilingual access. What of this does Longmont already do?
So I do believe that we, at this point, translate a lot of our ballot wording issues into Spanish for language access reasons. Some of the other things we certainly do support, is what I would say, in order to provide additional access. But currently, and Don, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but we do an awful lot to try to make sure that people understand their voting rights and have language access, at least in Spanish at this time. You want to add anything?
I would just say our regular elections are coordinated with Boulder County, and so we look to them to fulfill those requirements, and they do that. Under state law that changed a year or 2 years ago, maybe 3, we've been translating our ballot content and providing that to Boulder and Weld counties every year. So a lot of those things we already do in a coordinated election, as I noted to Sandy earlier, some of our concerns in the clerk community is certainly very concerned about this bill, because there's a lot of statutory towns that run their own elections. So where we have lots of concerns, or could have more concerns as a municipality, would be if we held a special election. Those are not coordinated by the county, but we contract with the county, and that throws it entirely under Title 31. And then all of these changes would apply to us. So while some of it looks like we're already doing it because our elections are coordinated, because the county handles that, in a special election, we have flagged some concerns there.
Yeah, thank you. And my last question, and this, I was reading the Colorado Municipal League and the different attachments that you shared, Sandy, and the last thing here that I wanted to just ask about is there was an interesting thing that I hadn't thought about before, which was on am I correct that the legislation is suggesting aligning the calendars or the election cycles basically so that municipalities would fall into the even years?
Yes.
And so that would be a significant departure from how municipal elections are currently run, right?
Yes.
And so I think that the point here that the Colorado Municipal League flagged is that this would make municipal elections align with, so even though they would be nonpartisan still at the municipal level, they would align with partisan ballots, correct?
Yes.
Or ballots for a partisan office,
Yes.
right?
And again, that's the very first step into, taking away the way that municipalities run different elections.
Got it.
And if I might add.
Yeah, please.
Municipalities can already elect to change their election date if the board or the council decides that. The ability is there to align with November elections. Our forefathers did, right? Yeah.
Got it. Okay. Thank you. I generally support the intent of the legislation, and I think the amendments that were proposed by the Colorado Municipal League make sense here and allow us to continue to operate our elections in a fairly ethical and thoughtful and inclusive and accessible way. So thank you.
Thank you. So Sandy, where is this at? Do you know where this is at in the legislative process?
So this bill went through some significant amendments on the first round of the committee. None of those were substantive to the point where, that changed any of the things that we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
They changed a lot of the technical issues, and that was helpful. That's very good. But none of those amendments actually addressed any of the issues from the municipalities or from Colorado Municipal League. So I believe it's out of committee and probably headed for the Senate floor.
Okay. So we're not looking at any other amendments.
We can always amend
unless
on the
what happens
floor,
at,
and then it's got to go to the House. So yeah.
And we don't have a state
We
senator.
don't have a state.
I mean, I do in theory, just the reducing those barriers, access to language. I think about, one of the things that I was talking to with another individual about this particular bill. Okay, we have folks whose English is their second language. They have basic understanding. You think about learning a second language. You can converse. You can handle, just basic conversational language. Once you start delving into the nuances of election ballot measures and legal terminology, that gets a little tricky. So having that accessibility to language, and I believe it was if the population was at 10% of that language, anything less, they would not, municipalities would not be required to provide that particular language. So if there's, maybe you have like a 0.5%, Vietnamese, then, there's no requirement to that.
Yeah.
But I always believe in just building that accessibility to language so then you have well-informed voters. Voting services for people with disabilities. So there are things on here that I like, and I think as a state as a whole, why we might be doing this, our county might be doing this, but not all counties throughout the state are aligned with these practices. So, I don't want to throw the whole thing away or take a stance of opposing, but I would like to endorse if they follow through with the recommendations made by the Colorado Municipal League.
And
I
Make a
would be
motion,
happy to make a
please.
motion that we
Amend.
vote to support on the condition that they move forward with the recommendations from the Colorado Municipal League.
And that's certainly an option for a position. So the position that I was asking was amend, but support if amended is also,
Yes.
you know, you can nuance that any way you'd like, and
I did like the recommendations in the Colorado Municipal League because it does protect that component. Otherwise, amended, it could mean anything.
Right, that's very true. And I wanted to make sure I was right. I'm bringing up my status sheet on this bill to make sure I know where it is, because I thought that's what happened, but let me just check while you are discussing.
Did you second? Okay. Got it. So this is the 2020, hang on. Bill SB 05001 has been moved by Mayor Pro Tem Hidalgo Faring to support as amended per the Colorado Municipal League.
If amended.
If amended, per CML's recommendations. Whew. And that was seconded by Councilor Popkin. No more discussion in the queue, so let's vote. And that passes 6-1 with Councilor Christ opposing.
Thank you very much. And just to confirm, this did make it out of Senate Committee of State Veterans and Military Affairs and was referred, amended to appropriations.
Okay.
So that's where it is. So it's not quite on the floor yet.
Were those amendments were they from CML or were they just from everyone?
They were, the bill had lots and lots of amendments that helped to fix some of the
Yeah.
technical issues, but none
not
of them were substantive.
Okay.
With our issues.
Thank you.
Yes.
Now we are at final call, public invited to be heard. Is there anybody in the public that would like to comment? Of course.
I pass sometimes.
I don't remember that you ever did.
I have. Steve Altschuler, 1555 Taylor Drive. A couple questions. I know about a month ago there was talk about having one of the meetings where there's 5 minutes public to be heard, where it's interactive, and that got postponed because of the appointment interview process for city council. Is there any talk about doing that procedure again in the near future? Because I think those are excellent meetings.
Yes, and I will ask because I don't know the date. Have we set a date for those? And I know I'm not supposed to. Is it just the one in June? It's either June or July, but we will definitely have one.
So we're not really making up the one that we lost, we're just doing the other one in July like normal?
Yeah.
Or fairly normal or something like that? Okay. And so that's one thing, I just wanted to bring that up to see if that's coming up in the near future. I don't, and again, if you can explain this out loud to everybody, it'd be great. I don't really understand the home rule city aspect. I've asked many times about the city council passing an ordinance or proposition or whatever the heck you call it, stating that Longmont is not a sanctuary city. And I've been told, well, we're a home rule city, so we don't have to follow what the state does. But then earlier tonight, you were talking about plastic bags, and the comment was that we have to enforce the state law with the plastic bags. So if we don't have to enforce the state law with sanctuary cities, why do we have to enforce the state law with plastic bags? And I know you were nice to me a moment ago, but technically you're not speaking back and forth. But if you could ever answer one of those questions, I'd really appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Steve. Is there anyone else that would like to address us? Yeah. Come on down.
My name is Nathan Drashner. First of all, I'm with the Prairie Village North Homeowners Association. I'd like to apologize. We didn't realize the way you guys like to function things with the whole group earlier. and just have a couple people come up and talk. I wanted to thank you for having your staff, pull us aside and speak with us. That was incredibly helpful. Look forward to working with them. And then also there's a large contingent of us that we're just interested in trying to start a dialogue on this. So, I mean, we look forward to working with all of you however we can to try to address this, both for the community and for the clients that are involved with the organization. Our concerns are trying to create a healthy environment for everybody. So,
Thank you very much.
yeah, thanks.
All right, no one else is here for final call public invited to be heard, so we'll move on to mayor and council comments. Are there any council comments? Councilor Hidalgo Faring.
Prolong this just for Aaron. So, thank you, Mayor. So I just wanted to let you all know that if you haven't had a chance to look in the hallway around the corner, the work that our kids from Indian Peaks did with Arts in Public Places, a couple of their canvases are displayed in the hallway heading over to the restrooms, as well as other canvases that were done by members of the community during Art Walk and Rhythm at Roosevelt. We are also working to get some photographs that our youth have taken and had displayed at the Lashley Street Station, and looking to have them displayed here in the council chambers to really show Longmont through the lens of our youth. They are beautiful. So they're black and white photographs of just different parts of Longmont and what they see, how they view our community. It's amazing. So I wanted to get those up, so that'll be coming soon. And I'm also working with Arts in Public Places and a couple other community, like Countryside Village, to do another art workshop.
So I want council and staff to know that I will be gone March 5th, which is next Wednesday, through March 8th, which is Saturday, to go see my grandson, because it's Grandparents' Day. Woohoo! And so Mayor Pro Tem Hidalgo Faring will be available, so call her constantly.
Thank you. I'm sure you will.
So seeing no one else for council comments, we're now at city manager remarks.
Yeah, Mayor, Council, I just wanted to give you all, obviously you heard from one of the residents in the conversation. I think we had a really good conversation with the neighborhood. Just to clarify some points on that in terms of, did that come in through our process? It didn't. And there are a number of issues that we have to look into in terms of the issue with the house that was mentioned in Prairie Village. So staff has started to look into all of the nuances in terms of what we need to do to bring out, the legislative issue and make it even more complicated. There are a number of things in housing that have passed recently, separate and apart from this, that could be applicable, but then there's also state legislation on recovery homes, group homes, and other issues. So we're going to need to dig into that, dig into building code and some other issues. Zach and Grant did commit to giving the neighborhood an update in a week. It may take us more than that to fully vet this, but I thought it was a good conversation. As we're getting that information, we'll also be communicating with council.
Thank you so much, Harold and the rest of staff, for communicating and talking to this group, because council has no active role in this at all right now. I don't know that we ever will.
That's what we've got to figure out in
Yes.
terms of what can council do anything? If so, what can they do? What can they not do? And we just don't know the answers to those questions based on some of these recent changes in state law and other issues.
Okay, and I know that you'll keep us apprised. All right, city attorney remarks.
No comments, Mayor?
All right, can we? So it's been moved by Councilor McCoy, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Hidalgo Faring, that we adjourn. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? So that passes unanimously. Good night. Thank everybody.